Earlier today it was announced that Modern Warfare 2 is currently on sale for a 2-week span, seemingly ahead of the Season 4 launch here. But there was one thing with this sale that stood out to me beyond just the fact the game is discounted at the moment. Today I want to touch on the seemingly withheld promise of a feature that was introduced with Modern Warfare 2, shown off in one format and then never seen again in the half year plus the game's already been out. And that's kind of wild to me. That being the story of weapon vaults. So as we go along, drop your thoughts down below. Did you want to see more weapon vaults in Modern Warfare 2? Are you happy we haven't seen them just yet? Or are you perhaps impartial and just find it incredibly odd that such a big talking point of Modern Warfare 2's pre-launch marketing was never seen again after that first initial update? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to stay updated with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, anything COD related, and other FPS content here upcoming. And finally, check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage for the best blue light glasses on the market, but more on them a little later. For now, let's talk about weapon vaults, or I guess the lack thereof of them. So to start, today it was announced that the Vault Edition of Modern Warfare 2, along with the base edition of the game, was going to be on sale. The Vault Edition, though, for Modern Warfare 2 was downgraded to the price of only $69.99, which is where the Standard Edition was not 24 hours ago. That Standard Edition is now priced at $38.49, oddly specific, but that's where it's at. Now, sure, we can meme the price point all we want as a desperation play or whatever to get players to play the game, but objectively speaking, these sales happen regularly and have now for a long time. So we can joke about it all we want, sure, but it's relatively normal. Now, the appeal of the Vault Edition, though, was in that extra COD points, Battle Pass tokens, and other things like the 141 skins, thankfully now available just beyond that bundle that came with the Vault Edition. Beforehand, up until like what, Season 2 or whatever, that was whenever we ended up seeing our first introduction of a Task Force 141 character beyond that Vault Edition. But the one biggest game changer out of that, per se, was the announced FJX Cinder Weapon Vault. Something they tried to hammer home as a marketing point so much to the point that for the first time within any Call of Duty beta, you actually got to use those weapon skins and the weapons that it fully unlocked for you ahead of the full intended launch of the game. Now, before the game was launched, there were definitely a bunch of theories that initially the optimistic side of things pointed towards maybe vaults would replace blueprints entirely. That finally, after 3 years of seeing our blueprints completely altered by changing singular attachments, i.e. sometimes you'd change a stock attachment and it would ruin the entire aesthetic of the blueprint, getting rid of all the camo or whatever custom design was on that maybe would see a system in place that would allow us to keep all those designs across all weapon attachment changes no matter what. Turns out that was kind of the case, but not really. You, of course, were still able to end up changing all your attachments with those weapon vaults, but only with the weapons included in that weapon vault, not necessarily changing fundamentally the blueprint system. And early on, Joel Emsley, studio art director at Infinity Ward, even clarified this, saying that it was an extremely rare style of weapon blueprint category with more details to come. But that was something that we didn't see any official information beyond that until COD Next, which then did clarify that yes, what we saw was going to be what we just mentioned, where it was a different version of the blueprints, but you wouldn't see it on every single blueprint. But the question that was still on the table is, well, how many would we see? Because Joel Emsley mentioned it was going to be an extremely rare blueprint category, but just how rare exactly? The rumor I had heard personally around COD Next was not a lot. Like, I think the number I heard thrown out was like 4 or 5 all year, to which that was something that at the time that was kind of like crazy. We're like, are you serious? Only 5 of these out of a big marketed item, like what we saw with the FJX Cinder Weapon Vault in that Vault edition of the game. But the craziest part is that still to this day, we haven't seen a second one, let alone a third, fourth, or fifth one here that would make it a rare, maybe seasonal offering that we saw and what we theorized about in the past. So the question is, where the heck are all these weapon vaults that never really came? Now, honestly, one of the big things that I think this whole system kind of backed itself into a corner into, and may be a big part of why we haven't seen it just yet, is the fact that it covers so many different weapons of a weapon platform. Now, the M4 platform is a handful of weapons deep. There are some that do not have as many, and some standalone weapon platforms as well. But whenever you do that, initially it was something that was kind of a pay-to-win concept, because you had the ability to not only just change the cosmetics on those weapons across the board for whatever weapon of that platform you used, but it also unlocked every attachment associated with those weapon progression unlocks along the way. So that means that you could jump into at even a level 1 using a fully kitted M4, whereas other players would have to rank up their weapons, unlock attachments, and continue that grind going forward. But you were able to jump into it with a fully leveled weapon, fully kitted out and everything. So initially it was one of those things that was pay to win, but right now at this point, if you were to introduce another weapon vault at that point, one, wouldn't have the same value proposition as it did back before launch and even at day one. And two, it is something that there's still to this day not a whole ton of weapons that universally have the same platforms across the board. A lot of what we see with the post-launch weapons, even if they are sharing the same name as the weapon platform of something else, it's still disjointed. So you can't unlock a DLC weapon by ranking up the Tactique platform or the Cast-Off platform. That stuff doesn't work like that. So because it is disjointed, because there's not a whole ton of different platforms out there, I feel like they kind of back themselves into a corner to begin with, where sure, maybe the target of 4 to 5 on the entire year was something that was kind of logical, and we do see a handful of different larger platforms, that M4 platform, that Tactique platform, the Cast-Off platform, the Lockman platform, the Bryson Long Rifle platform, the Bruin Bullpup platform. There's a handful of different platforms that you can go on with that do have multiple different weapons that are unlocked through that platform, that when you consider the air quote value of weapon vaults, you are getting a sort of head start on anywhere from 3 to 5 to 6 weapons per platform, that you could make one of those applicable to a weapon vault in a battle pass, or probably, if it is ever introduced, a shop item. That's something that you still have that to work with, but realistically, you're still kind of cornered to where there's not a whole ton to work with in the grand scale of things. But I just kind of look back at this and I think, like, that was a big part of the marketing, especially one of the reasons why players would want to, air quote, buy that Vault Edition if you were at all interested. Of course, there were other things that definitely had subjective value depending on what you were interested in, but that was one of the big things in a brand new feature, something that seemed to be sort of this new era of unlocks and cosmetics for weapons that we saw once and then never again. So coming back to where we are today with that Vault Edition sale, the Vault Edition really wasn't half bad on day one, but when you consider where we're at now, chances are you probably have that M4 platform ranked up. And if you don't, you're probably just playing free to play and you don't care all that much. I mean, the M4 platform had some of the best weapons out of the gate here that you could end up using. Of course, the Cast-Off platform, of course, the Tactique platform, all have very good weapons, but that was one of those things that if you were jumping in on day one, it was definitely useful to that regard, where if you wanted to spend that money, it made a bit more sense. But today, I mean, if you're looking to play from DMZ or Warzone 2 to a full-on multiplayer version of Modern Warfare 2, you're probably better off saving a couple of bucks and just getting that on-sale normal version of the game. But anyways, just wanted to have a casual chat here about this feature that we still, over half a year now into the game's life cycle, we haven't heard anything else about an additional one going on, despite it being a big focal point before launch. So that said, that's what we're gonna call it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are you guys happy we haven't seen any additional weapon vaults? Are you upset about that? Impartial? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. Before we wrap everything up though, make sure you check out my friends over at Gamer Advantage for the best blue light glasses on the market. I've worked with the team there for over 2 years now, and without a doubt, they're still, I think, one of the most beneficial partners I've worked with in terms of helping my daily productivity. Sitting at a desk for 8 to 10 hours a day, looking at a monitor, absolutely was something that I started to feel the effects of eye fatigue and the inability to fall asleep quickly and things like that. So while I've used generic pair off Amazon, Gamer Advantage are head and shoulders above anything you'd find there. They're the most comfortable, lightweight, and durable frames on the market, and unlike some of those pairs you find on Amazon, they're clinically proven and can work with your insurance to help cover some of, if not the entire cost of your order, and can be custom tailored to you. At the very least, I'd recommend checking out the link in the description below to learn more about the science, the clinical studies behind all of it, and if you'd like to pick something up for yourself, use code Espresso to get 10% off your entire order. But for now, that's what we're gonna call it. So let me know your thoughts once again down below, but if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it, and if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to the video with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything FPS related. But for now, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.